Hello and good morning. Happy Friday, everybody. So, my apologies to anyone that was hoping to see me or catch the live last night. Unfortunately, life happens, doesn't it? And things come up. So, I had to move back to what was my regular slot on a Friday morning. So, hopefully, if you can't catch this live, you will be able to catch it on replay. And if you are watching on replay, please leave me a hashtag replay or a thumbs up or a comment. Ask me any questions. I will absolutely come back and answer questions if they're asked. So today the live is all about how to create content that will build know, like and trust. Yeah, so creating content's hard, isn't it? And now we need to show up and be personal as well as sell. So selling's hard, isn't it? But this is actually can be harder because it can trigger all sorts of different negative talk, negative voices in our head saying, oh, I don't want to be, share too much, I don't want to annoy people, all these different things. So once we grasp the concept of actually selling and promoting our business, once we get confident enough to do that, we still have to be then able to show up and be and build that know, like and trust. So it's all about working with the algorithms. We talk a lot here in the group about the 70-20-10, 70% personal, 20% educational, and 10% selling. Yeah, okay, so it is my true belief that we can absolutely placate the algorithms, show up, build know, like and trust, connect with our audience, and share content that is easy and quick and simple for us to do within our 70% that still relates to our business. Occasionally we will want to show up and, a picture of the dog and, that kind of stuff. And when we're on a night out or met with friends, that kind of stuff, absolutely it works. But I truly believe that our audience, and when we show up for our audience, will be looking to engage with us. Many of us are our ideal client, and therefore sharing parts of our life, our story, can absolutely still relate to our business. So just to be clear, there is a difference between our ideal client, so our audience, and also our ideal paying client. Now I'll be doing more about ideal paying clients and how we actually get people to buy from us. I will be doing that in a live in the very near future. Today I really want to focus on how we can actually show up confidently and consistently and share that 70% of our non-selling, not too educational content that will actually, boost the algorithm. It will draw people to our page, to our website, because this is the thing we need to remember. So we love to hate social media, don't we? And go, oh yeah, I'm not getting anything, I'm not getting any results. We have to remember what social media is really for and the purpose that it serves. I like to describe it as your window. So imagine you own a shop, as some of you actually do, but it's the window, isn't it? It's the display that you put out. It's the thing that makes people walk past and say, oh, okay, all right, that looks like a shop that I could go into. And what we're doing by sharing our 70% is actually drawing people to the places where we can then take them on to the next stage. So whether that's your email list, are in groups, for example. So we've got pages and groups, because your group is should have inside of it your ideal paying clients, or a website where people can absolutely buy. So recognizing what the purpose of social media is all about. And I know that many of us get triggered by the time that it takes and the effort and the brain power. I had a conversation with a client yesterday, and we were sort of saying, oh, I'm quite a private person. I don't really like sharing a lot, and I love talking about what I do, but when it comes to being more personal, I get stuck. We can absolutely do all of it. We absolutely can. So when people like our posts, when they comment, Yeah, so if we're giving them something that there's nothing to object to, and for me, a good example of that is the dog business. That's where I definitely recognise the importance and the difference of showing up with more personal things. Was, yeah, we share a picture of a dog, you know, we're out on a walk, yeah, we get likes, don't we? Share a link to your masterclass or to your new latest offer or product, people swipe past, don't they? Because if it's not really designed for them, then they're not going to be interested. But also, we're giving them something to object to. They feel like they're being taken on a process. And if they're not your ideal client or your ideal paying client, then they're going to swipe past. But what we need is we need engagement and content, things that people don't object to. And so for me, that is sharing pictures of the dogs, you know, just out walking, you know, no links, no, you can buy, you can book, you know, that kind of stuff. Just, oh, look what the dog's doing today kind of stuff. That's certainly my example of that. And also in my coaching business, you know, for the women that I work with, they tend to be over a certain age, so health and well-being is obviously something that's important as well. So when I talk about you know, getting my steps in, or you know, trying to be more healthy, it's something that my ideal clients, whilst it's not really to do with my business, it's something that they absolutely engage with. Conserving energy, getting your work done so that you've got time for yourself. You know, these are all things that we can demonstrate in a personal way, without actually driving somebody to buy from us at that point. We've got several people here in the group. I can give you some examples. So Anna Lee, for example, who's a nutritional coach, an amazing nutritional coach. Yeah, so she's got loads of amazing gadgets in her kitchen. I know because I've been in her kitchen and I've seen them. She lives her business. So everything that she teaches, everything that she coaches, the advice that she gives, she lives that on a day-to-day basis, trying new recipes, trying out a new gadget. Quick photo of her in her kitchen trying out the latest, you know, vegetarian shepherd's pie, you know, just making it and sharing it. Yeah, but so somebody that's interested in eating more healthily, maybe making those changes, yeah, they're going to whack a like on that. They're going to comment, aren't they? They're going to say, oh, can I have the recipe? You know, it's that kind of thing. Our very own Sarah Dupont, yes, who's off on her holidays now, bless her. So hopefully she's having a great time. So when she shares, she does a regular card pull, and so she does oracle card readings, and she will do a regular card pull in her group, for example. Whilst it's directly related to her business, it's absolutely what she does. She doesn't massively sell in that process. It's something that she does. So when it comes to Facebook, they're like, oh, she's showing up and sharing. You know, Facebook's, you know, checking for links and sales wording, and they're not going to find it. And it's definitely a way that will offer value to her audience, get them to engage. I mean, I think there was 87 comments, I think, on her last live that she did. But even when she just posts in the group, she still gets lots and lots of comments. And that's what we want, so that when you show up and sell, when you've you know, Facebook saying, oh, this person's interesting, they're getting, you know, all their likes and comments, so that when you do share content that is directed at your ideal paying client, when you are educating people, or you drop that sales post or link to a website or a new offer, Facebook is way more likely to show that to your expanded audience. If you can imagine, every time you get a comment and a like, an interaction on a post, you're expanding your vessel. Facebook will only give you a very tight slot. There's a lot of people. There's 2.8 billion people on Facebook, I think. You know, so it only gives you a very, very small slot. By placating and working with the algorithms, showing up in a more personal way, you can absolutely expand your space. So you actually get a bigger advert, if that makes sense, and a bigger audience. And this is what people tends to trigger us and make us go, oh, why should I have to do that? Yeah, okay, so it's all part of the process, isn't it? Learning to love it, And this was where Gemma and I really kind of came up with that concept of learning to love social media. Don't hate on it, love it, show up, be friendly, you know, connect with your audience, offer value, and then you will start to see results. So Alison Emery, so she made kombucha the other day. I won't go into too much detail, but it's basically a drink, and it's really good for gut bacteria and that kind of stuff. So Alison is a somatics teacher and a massage therapist, but again, she lives at her healthy lifestyle. These are all things that she would advise clients to do. It's all about, you know, managing and healing ourselves, you know, getting out of pain and, you know, leading a more active life. And that's absolutely part of that. So showing up and sharing about that, you know, she had lots and lots of comments, you know, people asking questions about it and that kind of stuff. Sharon, for example, Sharon runs forest schools. Yeah, picture of her lighting a fire, you know, there's all these kinds of stuff. And we can absolutely relate these things to our business, because if we're just showing up on our page with events or, you know, just selling, and this absolutely needs to be happening on your Facebook page, let me just say that, or in your group, wherever you choose, you know, either from your page directed to your group or in your group, but not on your personal profile, because there are way too many people on our personal profiles who are never going to buy from us. They're not our audience. We can absolutely show up for them with a picture of us getting drunk one night or that kind of stuff, because that's what family and friends want to see. But what we need to be doing is shifting that personal but business related content and showing up on our page, actually doing it, and also in our groups as well. Connection is so important. So if it is that important, if we realise, even when we say, oh, okay, Abby, I get it, you know, I need to do it, why do we still hold back? And that's really what I want to talk to you about today. So if I can share with you some tips about what's helped me, and certainly what's helping my clients and also our clients in the VIP, to actually get over that little pain threshold, and to do it in a simple, easy, time effective way. If I can share those tips with you, then hopefully you can start expanding your audience, getting more connection, getting more comments, and that will in turn drive traffic to when you need to sell. So what stops you showing up? Drop in the comments and let me know what stops you from showing up and sharing in a more personal way. Is there part of your story that you're not sharing? What are you forgetting? We want to be sharing our past, present and future. Our credibility, you know, factors very much into sharing personal content as well. What haven't you tried? What have you tried? You know, these are the things. So it's taking that moment. So mindset is all about stopping for a minute and kind of like kicking the logic back in. Many of us operate from our gut, our fear, our hesitation, our past experiences when things did not go well, also when they did go well, so fear of success and not being overwhelmed. You know, what if I start sharing and then all this is all going to, you know, I'm going to start getting all this interaction. You know, we don't want, you know, huge amounts of, we don't want to be sitting on social media for too long having lengthy conversations with people, because that's not time effective. So what is it that you're actually hesitating to do? So how it affects our business. So if we're not showing up and sharing our in our 70%, or if we're not showing up at all, what happens is we begin this sort of cycle. We end up just sharing, you know, the occasion, you know, a new offer or that kind of stuff, but we show up quite weak, and we're not building and expanding that audience. Vulnerability is something that many of us struggle with. You know, I used to post quite often, you know, stuff about my coaching business, and then sort of sit there for ages before I press the button, overthinking it. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about overthinking in a week or two. Overthinking it, and then even when I did press the button, I'd then have what I refer to as a vulnerability hangover, where you can sit for minutes, hours, days, questioning, did you do the right thing? And when it doesn't work, you know, that's what we remember, and that's why we hesitate. So how do we solve this? Okay, so the one rule is what you share needs to be true. Okay, so we're not showing up with bullshit. We need to be being our truest and most honest self. And I offer that the more true to who you are, the more authentic you are, by doing it your way, this is just only going to become easier and easier. Okay, it's going to be much easier to be consistent, and people know if you're not being authentic. So the one rule is, you know, if you're sharing stuff, it needs to be true to you. That's the thing, and that's where many people struggle, because they think, well, what if I actually share stuff about myself and then people don't like it? Okay, all right, so the right people will like it, I promise. Okay, so we need to connect first with ourselves, and make the use of our USP. Okay, so what it is that's unique about you. So why would somebody come to you for therapy and not someone else? It is absolutely that sharing, you know, the people where people can connect with you. You know, I talk about having grown up kids, I talk about being over 50, you know, all that kind of stuff. With the dog business, having had a dog of my own that, you know, it took a lot of time and effort and energy to look after him. You know, when I share that with people, that's what makes them buy. You know, they, you know, most people will message me on Facebook, for example, asking if we've got spaces, and I said to them, have you checked out the prices? And they're like, no, I just want to know if because I want to send my dog to you. I mean, that's the dream, isn't it? That's absolutely the dream, and that's what we're aiming to try and do. So just a little word of caution, not caution. Yeah, so different platforms require different things. So we focus a lot on Facebook here, because Facebook, for most of Gemma and for Gemma and myself, our ideal clients, they've either started with Facebook, 'cause that's usually where most people start, or it's where they're actually getting, you know, where their ideal clients are. Some quite often on Instagram. So Facebook likes you to, you know, absolutely likes you to share stuff. If you're sharing links that take people off of Facebook, so if they link to your website, yeah, you're going to get a black tick from the algorithm if you're doing that too much. We can absolutely do that, but we don't want to be doing it all the time or too much. So anything that keeps people on the platform. So if you're guiding them towards a Facebook group, that's fine. If you're sharing and not putting links in there, you know, you will absolutely, you know, get past the algorithm. Instagram likes follows. You know, if people are not giving you likes, Instagram will limit your reach. It requires quite a lot of effort. Instagram, yeah, there's a lot to learn. It's very visual. There's a lot of competition on there. If you are showing up on Instagram, then you absolutely need to be sharing stuff that people will go, oh, like that, like that, like that. Pictures of yourself, you know, if you're in the photo, even if it's just your hand or your feet, if you're in the photo or if there's personal stuff, absolutely that's where you're going to get engagement on Instagram. LinkedIn, so I'm not a massive expert on LinkedIn. We do have a lot of clients who do operate on there. I show up on there obviously because my clients are on there. LinkedIn will not punish you for sharing a link. So if you have stuff on YouTube, for example, sharing from YouTube to LinkedIn is a really, really great way to actually get your content out there. But again, it still requires engagement and commitment from your audience. And when we're looking at expanding our audience, we're still looking at getting comments and likes, and that's how we do it. Okay, so my 7 tips. Decide how often you want to post in total and where. Okay, so pick your platform or platforms, and decide how often you want to post. You know, Gemma talks about this an awful lot in her life, so you don't have to show up 7 times a week. Okay, we talk about 70-20-10, and my brain says that means I have to show up 10 times a week because then I can divide it equally. It's absolutely not true. And we can be a little bit, there's a little bit of flexibility and leeway with that 70-20-10 percentage. What it means is you need to be doing more personal than you are selling. That's the basic rule. So decide how often you want to post. So if you're posting 3 times a week to your page, then at least one, maybe two of those needs to be your 70%. Okay, I like to look at my month because that's easier for me. So in total across the month, how many times I'm going to post, and then break it down. Okay, so divide your 70, so dividing your 70% and your 70-20-10 into how often you're going to post across the month, let's say. So create scheduled posts for your 20 and 10%. Okay, get it done, get it out of the way, get them scheduled. Okay, so you know that they're going out there because they are just as important. Okay, and we'll talk more about what that 20 and 10% looks like when it comes to your ideal client. I should be talking about that again in a future live. Create a habit of sharing your past, present and future. So think about where you've come, what your credibility is, what led you to this point. This is all about your story. So it's not just about, what can I share, what am I doing today? For me, Christ, my life is so boring. It's like I'm on another picture of the dog asleep next to me. So it's not just about necessarily what's happening in the moment. It can be absolutely things from the past, so things that got you to this point, stories about how you've helped clients, testimonials and that kind of stuff. It all falls within that 70%. So sharing experiences past, present and future. Okay, creating a habit to do that. So if you're taking photos, for example, and storing them, using them later, using them as a resource, but getting into the habit of doing it. I had to get into a habit of taking photographs whilst I was out on dog walks, and I share those. I don't always share what's happening today. I can share what's happened maybe a few weeks ago, a few months ago. So getting into a habit of creating those resources. So if your ideas are coming for personal content, make a note of it. Make a note of it and come back to it. It doesn't always have to be in the moment. Okay, so remember you're serving the algorithm and your audience, so likes and comments are helping. So this is what I was saying earlier. Expanding your audience is, your audience are not always people that are going to buy from you, okay, but they serve a really, really useful purpose to expand your vessel, okay, to expand your visibility. So even if, you've got people liking and commenting who you're thinking, but this person never buys from me, that person is still helping your business. They're still interested in your content, and if every time they engage, you increase your chances of being seen then by someone who will buy from you. Okay, so create content that your audience want to see. So think about the issues, the pain points. Remember that these people are who you want, so the chances are there is a connection there. They're people that hopefully share your values, that are interested in the same things as you, that kind of stuff. So whilst we're not looking to make lots of new friends, it's about showing up in a friendly and relaxed way, and sharing like-minded content, basically things that your audience are going to go, oh yeah, I get what that, yeah, I understand that. So if your audience, for example, are working mums with young children, yeah, so if you're talking about the school run, gosh, I remember those days. It's the most perilous half an hour at either side of my day, trying to park near the school, getting kids on time, the teachers asking, sending a letter out 2 weeks before the end of term saying, oh, I need a costume for this, that and the other project, all that kind of stuff. So if your audience are working mums with young children, and you have young children, you need to be talking about that. If you're, again, as I say, women over 50, talking about brain fog, lack of energy, all that kind of stuff. That's what my audience go. Yeah, I know where you're coming from, Abby. Okay, so it's all stuff people can't object to, and don't be afraid to repeat yourself. So we could content. We think, oh, I've shared about that. I can't, share it again. It's crap. You absolutely can. I share stuff about book recommendations, for example, and whilst I do read and listen to a lot of new books all the time, you know, I'll quite often come back and say, oh, you know, I've just gone back and listened to a bit more of this book or whatever, that kind of stuff. Pictures of the dogs, you know, we only have so many guests. So therefore sharing pictures that have been seen before, because we tell ourselves that we're going to be boring or we're going to annoy people, and that's often the thing that holds us back. It's absolutely not. What one person sees one day, there's absolutely no guarantee. I mean, I say this to my clients, I say, if you get to the point where you're boring people, then you've nailed it. You've absolutely nailed it. If people are seeing, you know, if your whole audience are seeing everything you do, then you're nailing it. You know, that's absolutely the goal. Okay, and number 7, so get the fear of annoying people out of your head. Okay, so if they are the right people, it won't matter. So if you're sitting there thinking, I've shared this before, or why would people be interested in this? I promise you, your ideal clients, your audience, those that are going to help boost your visibility, absolutely will be interested. And again, this supports why we need to show up on our page and in our groups. And you know, this is not something we necessarily want to be doing on our personal profile, because there's too many people on there that are not your ideal audience. Okay, you know, I see people sharing their businesses using their personal profile. I see it a lot. And you know, and then I get a message saying, oh, no one's buying from me. Well, yeah, because they're not. They're your friends, they're your neighbours, the people you went to school with. They're not your ideal clients. So we absolutely have to have somewhere where we can create that ideal audience. So if you're wondering that you're going to bother people, I promise you, your ideal clients are not going to be bothered by what you're sharing. Okay, so the result is a habit to prioritise your 70%. Okay, so share at least as much personal as you do the other stuff, preferably more. Follow, and it enables you to follow the advice. Okay, so the advice that says, you know, how you can separate down your content. You know, the advice that we give in the VIP, for example. If you get over that ick, what will then happen is you'll actually be able to start taking action and follow that advice. So show up regularly, play with the algorithm. It's not just about placating it, it's about getting it to work for you. Okay, and build know, like and trust. So then when you build know, like and trust, when you do share a sales post or a link to your website where people can buy, or your group where that people can join, more people are going to see that. Okay, right, so that's my tips. So hopefully that's been useful for you. So again, you know, remember what social media is for. It's the window to what's behind. Okay, it's the thing that makes people stop and go, oh, okay, that's interesting. Maybe I'll go inside. Okay, that is what social media is all about. So if you're struggling, if you don't know what your 70% looks like, if you need some ideas and that kind of stuff, drop in the comments. If you're really struggling or you're ready to actually get going on this, we talk a lot about this in the VIP, by sharing your experiences, by coming, you know, brainstorming ideas. You know, it's a lot easier for somebody else, and I see this all the time in the VIP. Whilst Gemma and I, you know, we're full of ideas and advice, obviously, and experience, there's also a huge amount of credibility and experience within the other ladies within the group, you know, and we can often see something different from what we see for ourselves. Some of my best ideas and inspiration have come from other people saying, well, you know, what if you shared this? Or, you know, I'd like to see that, you know, that kind of stuff. Absolutely incredible access and resource, yeah, to really help your business. Okay, so I'll drop some links to the VIP, to a vision call with Gemma. You can come and chat with her about what exactly goes on in the VIP. But please do, if you have any questions or comments, by all means, you know, drop a like, give me a thumbs up, because everything that happens inside of a group works in exactly the same way as on a page. So we still want to be getting likes and interactions in our group, and Gemma and I are no different. So if you have watched this, and yeah, please do leave me a thumbs up, and that would yeah, that would absolutely help other people more people to be able to see the lives. Okay, have a super Friday, have a brilliant weekend, and I'll see you here in the group next week.